Hello, this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video inside of Hermitcraft Season Clockwork. We are reading Chapter 5, which is still episode 51, I believe. And we are still in Jem's perspective, as always. Yeah, that's normal. Yeah. Have you ever read any of the other stuff? Be sure you do so, because there's spoilers. Yeah. A lot of hours in these episodes. Holy. And it's not done quite yet. Chapter 5, shall we? I wouldn't swing those things around here so carefree, the man warned as the hermit squirmed in the man's grasp. You wouldn't want to risk hurting her, would you? I'm sure her friends wouldn't be so pleased if you did. Let her go, Mr. A, one of the cause members warned. We have you outnumbered, and it will take your men a while to figure out what happened to get back here. Who said I needed my men? The man asked as he pulled out a splash potion as Jem stomped on the man's foot. As he howled, letting go of her and the potion as it splashed at her feet, she pulled away from the man just as she turned invisible. Jem, get behind us! One of the men demanded as Jem noticed them trying to look for her as she went forward, stopping when she noticed the other bubbles sneaking towards the men. I don't think that's a good idea, Jem warned, her disembodied voice causing some of them to gasp with surprise. Whatever you tell me to do, he'll do as well. The men nodded with understanding as one of them told her to meet them outside. As one of the men disappeared, as the others began searching for Mr. A, his particles somehow disappeared. She looked around before looking back at the control panel room, just as she snuck back over to it, just as she heard a voice in the room. Change of plans. Most of the cause members are too busy trying to rescue the prisoner here. Find the hermits and do what you do best. Do you want them to be captured, sir? One of the men asked. Capture if you can, destroy if you can't. I don't care what you do, just cause a little bit of chaos. For our good friends, the YouTubers. Mr. A's laugh. She sent shivers up and down her spine as she snuck away from the control panel, running towards the front door as she opened it. Seeing one of the cause members holding a bucket out as soon as he saw the particles, she took it and looked inside as she smiled, drinking the milk as she reappeared. I'm going to get used to that. The cause member admitted. She giggled. It's okay. Then her tone got serious. Send out an emergency alert. Mr. A just ordered the men to attack my friends. All of them. You got it. The man nodded as he pulled out a communicator, pressed a few buttons before pocketing it, taking out a spare elytra and rockets as he handed them to her. I'll let Matthias know to find you. I'd suggest you go to Grant's place and help your friends there. Do you think they'll hit them hard? She frowned. There's a vulnerable hermit there. I'm sure they will. The man frowned. I think you'd feel better knowing you could help. She smiled and nodded, putting on the wings. Are you sure you're okay with me flying over there on my own? Seems kind of risky. I know. The man sighed as she saw some of the cause members launch into the air into certain directions. She couldn't see Matthias or the other escorts yet, but she had to assume they probably went off to protect their charge, while Matthias probably was looking for her. Sure enough, she watched as someone ran around the corner. His eyes brightened. Matthias! She exclaimed as she went over to her escort. It's good to see you're okay, the man said with a smile. Yeah, but I'm afraid there's no time for reunions, she admitted. We need to make sure everyone is safe. Very well. Do you know where you need to go? Sayed asked. She looked at the other cause member as she nodded, preparing to jump as she said, I do. Lead the way then. I'll be right behind you, the man replied as she launched herself into the air and into the afternoon sky, glancing over warily to where the helicopter had been, seeing a crater the ground, yet seemed to be any ruins of the machine. She either meant it had been entirely destroyed, or it was flying around to cause trouble. She hadn't heard it go, but that meant nothing, and she'd been distracted when it happened. She had to be ready for anything. Episode 52, Chapter 6. Let's get right into it. Jem could see the base ahead, trying her best to stay focused and pay attention to her surroundings. As she neared Green's base ahead, the area seemed calm and quiet, which suggested that they had managed to arrive before the men had, which probably meant that the men didn't have access to wings yet. They had that advantage, at least for the time being. Unless, of course, the men were invisible and already inside. She swallowed as she landed gracefully on the ground below, as she ran towards the base and went for the door, knocking on it for a few moments before opening it on her own. I'll scout around here to make sure no one gets in, the escort replied. It's possible they're already inside if they have access to invisibility potions and tunnels under our base, she pointed out. Especially if Mr. A managed to get one of your members to tell them. Just call me if you need me, the man nodded. I just need to do protocol. Right, she agreed. Jem agreed as she slipped inside, immediately running over to the hidden trapdoor down to the tunnel, seeing that it was closed. It could literally mean anything at this point. She stepped away from the trapdoor as she turned towards the stairs, stopping when she spotted particle effects near the stairway. She nervously stepped back, unsure if it was a friend or foe, or if they had seen her or not. Suddenly, she heard a shatter of glass behind her, and she hollered in surprise as something put a hand over her mouth. Their own body disappeared again. Shh, a familiar voice whispered into her ear. It's okay. Just climb up the stairs to one of the rooms. You know the one. Their hand pulled away as Jem finally spoke. What are you doing here, Pearl? I arrived home this morning. Pearl's disembodied voice mused as Jem looked back at the stairwell. His particles had disappeared. Are you okay? Yeah, he didn't hurt me, she admitted as she felt her arm being grabbed as she pulled towards the stairs. Sent a bunch of his men to attack everyone, though, because most of the cause were helping me. Yeah, the cause really needs to know that. That's not always the best idea. Pearl giggled. Come on, the others are upstairs. Have you guys literally been doing this whole time? She whispered. We kind of have to, after we got the emergency signal, Pearl said calmly. I have a bucket of milk for you to drink when we get to the top. We should be safe in the room. We stick together. Okay, Jem agreed, as she climbed the stairs, making it to the top as the milk bucket appeared. Floating in the air, she stifled a giggle, and she took it and consumed it. Pearl taking out another one, as she appeared at last. Her hair appeared to have grown quite a bit since the last time she'd seen her friend. What do you suggest? All right. With blonde streaks and highlights in her hair, as her teal eyes sparkled. You look amazing. As do you, she chuckled. Now come on, the guys are waiting. Jem didn't say anything as she nodded again, following her friend to a room down the hall. As she opened it, letting her friend step into the room, as she saw Impulse, Tango, and Beat-Up standing up when they saw them enter. The room seemed a bit larger than a normal bedroom, but it still had 4 beds in the room, one of which was occupied, as her eyes widened. When did you guys get here? She asked, unable to leave her eyes off the sleeping hermit. His face didn't look as pale as she last remembered it. The expression was calm and peaceful, oblivious to the dangers out in the outside world. Green was okay. He was alive. We've been here for at least a couple of days, Tango admitted with a smile. When we got your distress call, the 3 of us came here as soon as we could, only to find you were gone and Green. Yeah, Jem nodded as she looked down at her feet. The man used him to get to me. When Green tried to get in his way, you can clearly see what happened. He's recovering well, though, Impulse assured her cheerfully. Though he hasn't woken up yet. She replied quietly. I hope he wakes up soon. He will, Beat-Up said confidently. I don't think he'd want to miss this. We're in a lot of trouble right now, Jem replied, as she went over to the empty beds and sat down. At least most of us have a quick way to get to people who the men might target. Who are they targeting? Tango asked. Any of us that they can, Jem replied. One of the backups told me to come here in case the men tried to attack, because Green is here. Mr. A wants to capture us if he can. You won't get a chance, Pearl replied defiantly. Where's Liam in all this? Jem asked curiously, seeing her friends look away from her for a moment. After the attack, he felt he had to go on a mission to warn people about the possible danger of that man, Tango finally admitted. He didn't want to take any more chances. I guess that's fair, Jem nodded. That man hurt a lot of people. Yeah, Pills agreed with a smile. I kind of wish I managed to set up that invisibility detector system before this. I really jumbled up those words. That's okay. Pearl replied encouragingly as she walked over to him. We can make do. Hopefully the cause can find them and force them to retreat before any of us gets ambushed. Jem nodded as she looked out the window to the sky, not seeing anything looming over the horizon, and she stood up and looked out the window. Okay. Still appeared fairly calm and peaceful. She couldn't see anything out of place, but she also didn't see anything that she'd normally see, like little rabbits bolting from bush to bush, or sheep grazing on the lawn, or birds fluttering through the treetops. Not even the bees were anywhere in sight. Seems like a storm is on the way. Beetup's voice said from behind her. She jumped, looking over at him as he looked up the sky through the window. I mean, I guess there is, she said with a nervous chuckle. Wasn't referring to the men. Beetup replied with a smile. We should see a storm tonight. All right, she nodded as she went over to the bed again, sat down. So we wait? We could prepare for an attack, Bose offered. Security measures and traps should be triggered. I can do that. She nodded her head again, but before anyone could say more, she could hear beeping as her friends pulled out their communicators. They looked at their screens. She watched nervously, wishing she'd been given one. What's going on? The emergency signal has been disabled, Tango said with a frown. Is that a good thing? Pearl pondered thoughtfully. It could be, Pearl replied warily as he glanced over at the window. Someone found the original device and sent it. Turned it off, just to mess with us. Oh no, Jem admitted as she went for the door and opened it, peeking around the corner nervously. She stepped back into her room as she closed the door, stepping back. Something's wrong here. I can feel it too, Beetups agreed, with a frown, as he glanced over at the sleeping hermit, still seemingly oblivious to their presence. I think we need to get out of here. Almost on cue, there was a loud explosion from downstairs as the floor beneath them shook. Jem faltered, catching herself as she heard glass shattering from across the hall, as she looked nervously at her friends. Where to? She whispered. No one replied as they all stood as Pearl pulled something out of her pocket. Come over, Pearl said quietly, beckoning for her friend to come over to the bed where Green slept as she watched Tango scoop up the sleeping hermit and managed a small groan. Jem could see the invisibility potion in her friend's hand. It's possible the men are playing the same tricks. Don't attack any bubbles you see, unless you have no choice. Get out, don't be seen, trigger traps, and find a tunnel. The others nodded as Pearl dropped the potion on the ground as it smashed, Jem watching as everyone disappeared. The hermit realized that she was far under-equipped for something like this. They could do this, though. She had faith in her friends. Should we try to stay close? She suggested as she heard footsteps. If you can, Pearl's voice whispered. Please be careful. You know for sure you can trust them, though. Right, Jem agreed, as someone opened the door, just as three of Mr. A's men ran into the room to find it seemingly empty. It had begun. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we will be reading the next chapter or two soon. You will see it to it. Patience. Goodbye.